Welcome back, screenwriters and storytellers. It is me, Carl G. Rogers, a writer-director, helping you become a better storyteller. Now, some of y'all already may know that my day job is actually in technology. I'm a design strategist, so I'm working with UX design and human-centered design and design thinking and all these kind of technology-related things. And so I end up using AI a lot in my job. And I've made videos in the past about the effects of AI on screenwriting and creativity, but it's been a couple of years since then. And the technology has definitely changed. It has advanced a lot. So I wanted to briefly kind of go through some of the advances that have happened and how it's shaping the film industry, both at a technical level and also at a creative level. Like I said, creative process, very important to talk about AI, but there's more to it than just screenwriting as the way it affects filmmaking in general, because we're not talking anymore just about AI being a potential co-writer and some people using AI to write their scripts. It's also gotten to the point where the use of AI in the film industry has reached into the courtroom and is affecting VFX artists. So I want to look at that technological progression and see how that's going into even some people trying to make entire feature-length films using only AI. So we'll get to that at the end, so stick around. There's major studios like Disney, Discovery, and Warner Brothers, NBC, and they've all filed a major lawsuit against a company called Minimax, which is a Chinese AI company. You can see this article on No Film School. Stand idly by, we shall not. Right, so they are going after this company, Minimax, that's using this AI model, Hailuo. Basically, they're suing them for theft of intellectual property, right? Because Minimax says, oh, our AI is a Hollywood studio in your pocket. And well, how are they doing that? Well, it's allowing users to generate images and videos featuring famous characters with simple text prompts. And so if they're able to do stuff like that, then they probably trained their AI on existing characters, which are copyrighted. And so that's intellectual property infringement. But it doesn't stop just there. They also filed a similar lawsuit against Midjourney, which is a really popular AI image generator. I've not really used Midjourney a lot, but I've used similar applications. And I gotta say, what they can do with it is really impressive, but it's because they're using hundreds of years worth of human artistry and innovation and ingenuity and like dissecting it and conglomerating it in order to create something derivative. So in that way, I don't think it's very creative if you're just using it as the final output, right? We're going to talk about AI's place in the creative process because I think it could have a place there, but it's happened so fast that there's not a lot of legal implications yet around how the AIs have trained their data sets, because they're basically just using whatever's on the internet, which in the past was not really a big problem. But now that you're using that data to make something, it's like, well, how much of that is new and how much of it is not new? And so they're saying, we support innovations that enhance human creativity while protecting the contributions of countless creators and entire creative industry, right? And so they want them to be held accountable by these copyright laws, which makes sense. You've got to have some kind of legal precedence for this. And so I think these lawsuits are going to be really influential depending on how they shake out as to figuring out how these different AI companies that are training their data on copyrighted material are going to be able to, even move forward being used, or, disclosing their training data, or maybe altering their training data, all that kind of stuff. The studios, on the one hand, are saying, we don't want y'all training your models on our property, but we still want to use these models. And what do I mean by that? Some studios are already using artificial intelligence to help their visual effects pipelines. So if you look at this article in the BBC, this is from earlier this year, Netflix uses AI effects for the first time to cut cost. So it's not just using AI for storyboarding or ideation, it's actually using AI to output the final, the final comp. And that, I think, is a pretty big shift. And so, why did they do that? Well, it has to do with budget, right? It says generative use in their show The Eternaut from Argentina helped the production company complete a sequence showing a building collapsing 10 times faster than if they'd have used traditional special effects tools. Should be visual effects tools, but. And so that sequence is the very first generative AI final footage to appear on screen in a Netflix original series or film, and the creators were thrilled with the result. Yeah. So it's weird, right? When you use an umbrella term like AI, you're talking about a lot of different elements, a lot of different use cases, as we call it in the tech world, a lot of different situations in which this thing can be utilized, and a lot of different ways that it can be utilized within the film industry and the pipeline of how a movie's created, right? So I think there's, once again, going back to not are you using AI, but how are you using it, right? This might become industry standard for visual effects. I don't know. It kind of goes back to a lot of discussions that we have in the tech world about, well, is AI going to replace engineers, or is it just going to make them more efficient? So same thing with this. It's kind of like, is AI going to replace visual effects artists, or is it just going to help make them more efficient? I don't know. Using AI in film is not something new from a visual effects perspective. It's just that using it in this way for the final footage is unique. But we've seen some of this before. I mean, we've heard of de-aging, AI being used to de-age things, like de-aging Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, or they use something similar in Scorsese's Netflix film, where they had a lot of actors like De Niro and Joe Pesci, de-aged. So in that way, they're using it as a tool in order to speed up a lot of the data processing. So that goes back to my question about, well, is it going to make people more efficient? Is it going to make it better, or is it just going to make it weird and introduce this uncanny valley like effect? Because we know these actors and actresses, we can tell they've been de-aged. But it can increase immersion, right? Because then you don't have a different actor or actress playing the same role. It could go either way. But then with this that Netflix did, would anybody but a professional VFX artist be able to even tell that AI was used? Would I even be able to find the shot and be like, oh, yeah, that comp, yeah, they definitely use AI for that? I don't know. Usually AI is easier to detect if it's a specific, image or footage of a person, because it doesn't do people super well yet. Because up till now, we've seen AI being used assistively, right? It's helping people work more efficiently, work more cheaply. But what happens if you take the human out of the equation entirely? And that, I think, is the most worrying update that I'm seeing from all of this. And what I'm talking about is the film called Critterz. OpenAI, who makes ChatGPT, is making a feature-length animated movie. And yes, you read that right. They're going to try to debut at Cannes in France. They're trying to prove that AI can slash production and speed up the filmmaking process. Less than $30 million, which is a lot cheaper than your typical, Pixar or DreamWorks animated feature. But one thing to note here is that apparently they still have a human-written script. Human-written script. Okay, so you're going to use AI, but only to execute the creative vision. Now, I don't think that's a good idea. You can use AI and it still be, creative human work. I think everybody should use AI at least a little bit, even if it's just in your daily job, just so you can know what's going on, so that you can kind of see where it's headed, so you can know what it's like when people are talking about it. Full disclosure, I even used AI to help me prepare to make this video for y'all, just because it does help me be more efficient. Helps me find sources or summarize things or generate outlines or all this kind of stuff. But it's just a tool to assist me. It's not replacing me, which is what it seems like Critterz is trying to do. And they've already made a proof of concept for this, right? It's called Critterz because it's based on their short film that they did a couple years ago, right? not gonna watch the whole thing, but you can see this is what they made a while back, and I guess they're trying to take this concept and say, yeah, we're gonna turn this into an entire movie. Would you sit down and watch 90 minutes of this? I wouldn't want to watch 90 minutes of this. Definitely wouldn't show 90 minutes of this to my kids. So why are they trying to do this? I think because they want to find a way to make sure that it's going to be profitable, right? Like, they spent so much money, and by they, I mean OpenAI, spent so much money on ChatGPT, and they've got a lot of high usage of it, but is it actually profitable yet? That, I think, in some ways remains to be seen. And so they're like, well, maybe we can prove to people that it's profitable if we make an entire feature-length film, and as long as we make back more than 30 million, then, you know, we've proved that this is a use case, right? So it always goes back to the money, I think. And they're trying to ride, the gimmick of, oh, it's created entirely with AI, and so some people are going to go watch it just because it was made with AI, and they want to see if it's good or not, right? Is it going to be good enough to debut at Cannes? Goodness gracious, I hope not. I hope not. I really don't think this is a good idea. But I'm honestly not surprised that it's gotten to this point. But like I said, this is still written by a human, according to them. But according to this older article, Deloitte study, 22% of Americans thought generative AI could write more interesting TV shows or movies than people. So what does that say about the current state of our industry, even without AI? Right? I think there's been a lot of movies that have come out in the last couple of years that have just been so bad. TV shows have been so bad. I mean, I talked at length in one of my videos about Rings of Power, and don't think they used AI for that, but it was really bad. And so I think people who don't know a lot about screenwriting or about AI have said, what's out there now is so bad, we would be willing to try something created by AI just because it might be more interesting. I think this shows how important the human element of creativity is, and how even a lot of storytellers now that aren't using AI are falling short of that, to the point where 1/5 of people think, oh yeah, I think AI would be able to make something better than whatever I just watched. Why shows and movies, I think, have gotten worse in a lot of ways, especially from the major studios, is a separate discussion. But what's crucial here for the AI discussion is more than just the ethical layer about data provenance, if you want to use that term, and well, where's the content coming from, who owns the content, what's it being trained on, right? Are we using AI to generate the footage, or are we just using it to assist us in our creative process, or in efficiency gains, right? Is there still that UX world, is there a human in the loop? The humans should still be the loop, right? Even if they're using AI. We could talk more about creative process and AI if you want, and if so, let me know down in the comments. But it seems like the rise of AI in films is inevitable. As a writer and director, I'm less concerned about its use in visual effects and in the whole copyright issues, and I'm more concerned about people using it as a shortcut for true creativity. We might have a human script, but we don't really need animators. We'll just get prompt engineers to animate the whole film for us. That'll be fun. And then it'll get to the point where, well, now that we've figured out how to prompt engineer all of the animated shots, let's just get AI to create the script too. And then we're going to see, like this article is saying, these will be in films coming out. Hold on to your seats, right? And you'll get more of this, more feature-length animated movies. And they might even try to make it look live action and not just animated. They'll say, we'll take pictures of some actors and actresses. We'll take pictures of some real locations. We'll throw that into the model. We'll record their voice, with a predetermined set of words and scripts so that we know what their voice sounds like. And then we can make them move, do, and say anything we want. And if that's the world we're headed to, Lupin and I are very much not in favor, aren't we? Using AI as a tool is fun, but if you're using AI as the entire, you're making your entire movie in AI, then, what's the point? If you're a screenwriter or a storyteller and you've experimented with AI, especially more recently, the videos I made about using it in brainstorming, it was fairly early on. If you used it more recently than that, let me know down in the comments. Tell me what your experience was like, and if it made you want to use it more or use it less, and how you see this evolving in the future, as far as not just people using AI as a tool, which I think can be valid if you do it the right way, all the way to making an entire movie this way, which I think is just a terrible idea. But let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one.